My name is Kingsley, and I left absentee bids yesterday. One of them is on the Henry Evans that's going to go off in a few minutes, and the other was on a quilt. When I went on the site last night, it didn't record my bid on the quilt. I'm wondering if you have my bid on the Henry Evans. Thank you for answering. Everything in this room was made by hand. It's all imperfect. The bowls are hand turned. Yeah. The baskets are hand woven. The furniture is hand built. And some of these little aces are good. You know, it's not all museum quality, but sometimes there's just an ass kicker. Yeah. In my opinion, in my humble opinion, because I like doing this. I've been here a long time, and the store has gotten better and tastier. It's sort of like a chef getting better, you know, or maybe a stew getting richer. This is an 1850s applique quilt. Two different styles within the same quilt. You see the stitching around here? People don't do this anymore. Yeah. This is before there was television, before there was an electric light. The longer you actually look around, the more things you see. So if you like this is an 1880s Japanese tansu chest. Excellent. It's beautiful. It's all hand built, all hand wrought iron. Great color. And 140 years old. This is a Navajo blanket. These are Haida dance paddles. This is an Inuit whalebone face. Welcome, y'all.
Hi.
Just prowl around. If you have any questions, holler. Ask him. Kingsley Moore, Talisman Antiques. Place of handmade, a variety of things from the past when everything was made by hand. Everything in this room is made by hand. There's no parallel lines, there's no IKEA shit, it's just stuff. But made often, like the textiles, the quilts and stuff, were made for family. I mean, all this stuff, people were really good at this, that made everything, you know, from beadwork to glass to ethnographic stuff. They were really good, and it was important at the time. And things don't have to be expensive to still be valuable. These are handmade. This is handmade Chinese, probably 150 years old at least. A little carving of Jesus. A couple of Chinese carved bone perfume bottles. A little vessel, probably Vietnam, 500 years old. Japanese cloisonné censer. I started refinishing things back in the 70s. You'd go to a flea market or the Goodwill and buy something, and I took it home and stripped it and refinished it, and then I had a thing that was much better than what I had bought. And I did that for a while, and then I started schlepping them to the flea market. And I had a friend from college that had a store with her husband, I guess, and they invited me in one time. I was like, what do you mean? And so when I had enough stuff, I said, well, it's okay, I got enough stuff. And they just shoved all their stuff over to the side and put my stuff in, and I was a shopkeeper. I mean, I knew nothing. So I stayed there with them for a year, and I learned how you keep books and how you make receipts and how you clean the shop and present it. And that was the beginning. After a while, I don't know how long. My father died, and he lived over here in Oakland. And as things go, I happened to just move over from the East Bay to my father's home. A couple of months after that, it was a place down the street next to Barney's Burgers, and my wife said, check it out. So we drove down and just parked across the street, looked at the neighborhood, looked at the kind of cars there were, what the street traffic was. Said, well, this looks pretty good. And I called my partner, Bill. He brought his wife, Kathleen, over. They did the same thing. They just sat there, looked at it, vibed it out. And then we went in and said, let's go, let's do it. Anyway, we had a little store down the street, and it was August, and the lease was up shortly. So we lasted out the lease, and 2 days before the lease was up, a fellow walked in and said, I'm leaving my space up the street. Do you want it? The double thump was our jaws on the countertop going, yes. We came up here, and it had been an antique store with this guy, but he had to leave. So we moved to another place, this place. And after a year, Bill withdrew. And I've been here by myself ever since. So 27 years, 28 years. So I've been here on my own, and it has grown exponentially as I have grown. There is no other store like this in the Bay Area. And antique stores are dying. It's a dying business. Nobody's interested anymore. The kids of my contemporaries and their kids don't want grandma's old stuff. And they don't have any interest in handmade. They never did anything with their hands. It means people come in here and they ask me if I made all this shit. Like, what? How old do I look? You know, this thing's 150 years old. They don't know. They don't know. They don't know what it is. A couple came in the other day and asked how much the quilts were. And I said, well, that's 400. Oh my God, 400. Oh my God. I'll have to make quilts. I said, well, you go ahead. Next time you spend 1,000 hours on one thing, imagine what you would sell it for. Clueless. I mean, just clueless. Like this shit comes from China or falls off a tree or something. But there's no fixing it because the country is in cultural decline. Everybody's on their phones all the time. Nobody knows any history anymore. You know, culturally, I think we're doomed. You had to make all of these pieces, dozens and dozens and dozens of different shaped pieces, all the same, out of shell. Well, shell is very difficult to chip carve or whatever. And then assemble it. What happens if it was in the wrong place? Oops. You can't start over. Oops. You just got to put it in the right place. And so there must have been forceps. There must have been a magnifying glass. But we're talking 300 years ago. No, I can't pinpoint anything. It's just a lack of interest, a lack of knowledge, a lack of understanding, a lack of knowing any history. So it's a sad state of affairs. I do a lot of teaching in here. I'll explain what something is or when it was made or why or how, if they'll hold still for a minute while I tell them. Usually I see people roll their eyes and get bored, and I'll go, thank you for coming in. And I love my little store, you know. My little store is an interesting place, and it chug-a-lugs along, and it's the little engine that could. And I need the money. I need to make a living. I'm old, but I can't retire. And so I keep working the store. So I'm just trying to stay alive here. And, you know, I like people. And one of the things that I've noticed about this neighborhood, it's a better than usual neighborhood. A lot of the folks around here are please and thank you kind of folks. They're educated, smart, funny, literate, liberals, them crazy damn liberals. It's pleasant being part of this community, you know, and I'm very fortunate. I am aware of that good fortune every day. Things don't have to be expensive to be valuable. This is just folk art from all different cultures. And to look at an Indian basket, for example, they're not going to make them anymore. Time gone by. 1890s, turn of the century at the most recent. And I look at this stuff and it's real. It was there then. Okay? There's baskets from California that were there then. Well, this is important to me. It's moving to me. I look at this and I think, holy, you know, somebody sat down, some weaver gathered grasses, sat there and wove this basket, made this thing. Machine-made things have no soul. Therefore, they're dead things. They're not alive things. These things are alive. These things have a vibe. Sometimes, I dare say you could walk around blindfolded and feel something and get a hit from it. And I believe visually you can get a hit from this stuff. There's a power there. We don't know what we even know sometimes. When I look at them, I see the beauty that was made, and I can only imagine how long it took to make this. You know, like these things, they're made out of wool. So what'd they start with? Some sheep, okay? You're moving through the valley with some sheep, okay? Time comes, you shear the sheep. Then you wash the wool. Then you card the wool. Then you dye the wool. Then you weave the wool into this thing. Nice fucking job. And half these things are made by nomads. They're just doing as they mosey along. I'm not a religious person, but I believe in spirit. If that makes any sense. When I go out to the deep forests, that's my cathedral. That's where it's a good place to be. When I go next door to the church, bad place to be. It just doesn't do its all. So looking at these things and being surrounded within this room with these things, it pleases me. It just pleases my eyes. It pleases my soul. These things are, like I said, made mostly for family with an extra dollop of love. Very high bar.
What is your message to the world out there that's like changing, but also listening?
Pay attention.
To what?
Pay attention to your world. Be curious. Value human effort. Pretty much, you know. Do good deeds. Be kind. Pretty much.